institute, which will soon move to Fort Worth, will also be a research center.
TCOM was the foundation. Even other osteopathic students around the country would recognize our name.
Will present us with a real opportunity to be a national center.
And operate under the Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Becoming recognized as a real component of health care in this country.
When I got a call from Harvard that they had an opening, I actually turned them down.
The medical staff is committed to providing long-term medical care.
I saw, just as a community, how much TCOM cares.
But also research that has shown that the osteopathic philosophy truly is different and beneficial.
Making Fort Worth and other Metroplex residents a whole lot healthier.
Yeah, I think the best way to talk about this is talk about how osteopathic medicine actually came about. You think about Andrew Taylor Still, who was the founder of osteopathic medicine in the late 1800s. He was an allopathic physician. He was a surgeon. He came across a personal situation where he was seeing members of his family getting real ill. And as a physician, he saw himself there and how can I help? How come my family isn't getting better? How come some are dying from illness? Some are surviving.
In 1859, Dr. Andrew Taylor Still had woeful loss in his life. He lost his first wife due to complications of childbirth, and in 1865, he lost 3 of his children due to a meningitis outbreak, and then another child a month later to pneumonia. A.T. Still blamed the loss on the gross ignorance of the medical profession.
And as a physician, he said to himself, we have to come up with something different.
A.T. Still looked into every form of treatment that was being used at the time, and as an MD physician, he rejected the model. He came up with his own theories of practice, and out of that grew the science of osteopathic medicine.
Have you noticed the letters after your doctor's name? Have you wondered what they represent? The letters D.O. mean Doctor of Osteopathy.
So I usually start by saying that there's 2 categories of physicians in the United States. Both are fully licensed in all states, meaning that they can specialize in any specialty, they can do surgery, they can prescribe drugs. One is an MD, one is a DO. The main difference between them comes down to philosophical. MDs, typically there's not a philosophy of healthcare that overrides their education and treatment. Osteopathic medicine, there is. So osteopathic medicine was founded on basically 4 tenets. One, that a person is a unit, a dynamic unit of body, mind, and spirit.
And that brings in the context of taking care of the whole patient. We're not a disease, we're not a hypertension, we're not an appendicitis. We are a person, and with that person comes disease, illness. It comes the pure spiritual background, it comes the mental health part of it.
2, that the body is capable of self-regulation and self-healing.
And so what we need to do as osteopathic physicians is try to enable circumstances for that individual to become well through their own body's mechanisms.
3, that structure and function are interrelated at all levels, from cellular up to gross structures.
The structure of the human body determines how it functions. Probably the best example I can give of that is what we teach engineers. A building has a certain structure to it, and that structure determines the function of that building. The human body is the same way, right? And that's the whole concept of osteopathic manipulative medicine. If we can maintain structure of the body, we can improve its function.
And 4, that a rational treatment is based on all of those principles.
Viewing the person holistically and taking in their background and their environment and lifestyle and all the outside factors that contribute to their health, and how there might be kind of a surface level issue, but it's important to look beyond that.
One day, A.T. Still was plowing a field with a horse and developed a bad headache. He decided to lay down using a rope at the back of his neck as a pillow. When he awoke, his headache was gone. He realized that being suspended on the rope stretched and relaxed the muscles which made the headache go away.
He viewed the body as a unit that was capable of healing itself and maintaining health if all of the parts were in functional relationship with each other. So he believed that if an organ, say, got blood supply to it and carried the blood supply away from it, that organ could maintain health. Development of manipulative techniques were based on maintaining lymphatic flow, maintaining blood supply, maintaining the musculoskeletal system in proper working relationship with each other, and the effect that it had on the autonomic nervous system and the nervous system in general. So all of his early treatments and writings and therapies were based on those basic tenets.
You know, you have your immune system, there's other defenses that your body has against pathogens and diseases that allows you to stay healthy. Then sometimes that's compromised and you need outside help.
And the approach is not just pharmaceutical or so forth or testing, but actually putting together and structurally figuring out, yeah, those things help augment, but what are some other things that need to be, fixed, if you will, to help everything work better? If you have an antibiotic or some drug and there's some blockage in basically the immune system or vascular system, you're not going to get the drug where it needs to go. If you can fix that, certainly then you'll augment and improve, the outcome.
Which is where osteopathic medicine can come in terms of using the OMM to manipulate your body in order to improve natural functions or range of motion, to relieve pain or symptoms.
The way I like to describe it is it's an extra tool in your tool belt. As a physician, you take histories, you write prescriptions, you get to know the patient, but not only that, you get to really interact with them. And so a lot of people come in with back pain or neck pain or musculature, and it's just a tool that physicians can use to help treat their patients right there and then.
Medicine is very founded in anatomy and physiology, trying to restore proper motion, which affects function. The more we've learned about science in the last 140 years since osteopathic medicine was founded, we find that that is more and more true.
There was a quote by A.T. Still who says, anybody can find a disease, it takes a real clinician to find health.
It was truly an innovative, radical approach to healthcare.
He was an innovator. He was an entrepreneur, so to speak. Maybe back when we didn't even know what those terms were, but that's what he was. He solved a problem that he saw.
And that started in Kirksville, Missouri, and that was the impetus for starting osteopathic medicine.
28 years after he developed a new theory of medicine, A.T. Still founded the first osteopathic medical school. From there, DO schools slowly began opening up across the country, teaching not only traditional allopathic medicine, but OMM as well.
50 years ago, there were not as many osteopathic medical schools as there are today. In fact, there may have been only 5 or so.
Chicago, Philadelphia, or Northeast. And then, a group of physicians, came to the smaller towns in Texas and then Fort Worth. And then that started the foundation of osteopathic physicians in Fort Worth. Then the next step was the 3 founders looking at a medical school.
They saw that there was quite the opportunity to start a medical school in Fort Worth, Texas, which was a growing city, and they did not have a medical school. Their goal was to supply physicians to underserved areas in Texas, in the rural communities, which were woefully short of physicians.
Despite the need for more doctors, DOs were not nationally accepted by MDs. In fact, the MD community from day one started a campaign lobbying against DOs' ability to have an unrestricted license, limiting their access to hospitals.
In the 50s and 60s, even though DOs were fully licensed, they weren't particularly welcome at traditional MD hospitals.
OMM was kind of considered voodoo by a large percentage of the allopathic profession. They couldn't understand how anything like that could possibly work.
Before TCOM was founded, osteopathic medicine did not have a stronghold.
osteopathic medicine was not known for its research. So there wasn't a lot of research on OMM and its application to healthcare to see that it actually worked.
And so they founded their own hospitals. And the Osteopathic Medical Center of Texas was one of those that was founded by osteopathic physicians for them to have a place to practice.
They were quite savvy in knowing that you need to work a bit legislatively and politically, and they were incredibly successful and incredibly visionary.
In 1970, TCOM opened as a private college of osteopathic medicine. The entering class was only 20 students. The initial building was located on Camp Bowie Boulevard and housed classrooms, basic science laboratories, and administrative offices.
The original building of TCOM, what I've heard of that is that it was originally in a bowling alley, and that some of the first class of students actually chipped in and helped provide some of the physical labor to convert that bowling alley into the classrooms and facilities that they were needing.
Then they built the hospital.
It was basically the teaching hospital. The medical school was across the street.
Then it was an opportunity for them to bring in physicians from not only the state of Texas, but also from other states to come here and get involved with medical education.
Many of the faculty obviously were on staff there. That's where they practiced. And that's where we did our rotations. Major rotations were all done at the Osteopathic Hospital.
TCOM would soon outgrow the facilities created just years prior, and they would need more space for the growing popularity of the school.
The Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine was housed here in the old Taverner's Palladium on Camp Bowie Boulevard. This old building, or what's left of it, was first a bowling alley and recreation center. The new 8th-floor medical education building is directly behind the ruins.
So I started interviewing in 1981. TCOM was fairly young at the time, but I saw so much potential that was being put in by the state of Texas, and by the faculty and the commitment, to the place.
After the year that I graduated in 1980, several of the guys in our class made the highest grades on the flex, which was the licensure exam in the state. One guy made the highest grade, and that had happened a couple of years before, and even with our class. So I knew they were attracting the kind of students that were not only just academically sharp. I mean, they were moving to another level.
I just knew that this was going to really explode, and look what we have now. We have a health science center.
In 1993, TCOM was officially redesignated and expanded by the state of Texas as the University of North Texas Health Science Center.
TCOM was we call it the foundation of the house. And then upon that, everything else was built, and the graduate school was part of TCOM. Then that split off, and then the School of Health Professions, and then things went from there as we built the pharmacy school and became an actual health science center.
That garnered us additional support with the graduate school, biomedical sciences, and those PhD type faculty.
That kind of transition as they really built us into a multidisciplinary, health science center.
One of the most important aspects of that, osteopathic medicine really was not well known for research. And what that has done is given many osteopathic physicians the opportunity to be engaged in research over a wide swath of topics, like in pharmacy, biomedical sciences, the medical education of PAs, physical therapists.
From a community and national perspective, we have gained a tremendous footprint in a very, albeit community-oriented health science center.
Which I think benefits all the students, because now you get everybody together working as a team. They're all together in one place.
Leadership over the last 20 years has elevated the image of the Health Science Center as a premier educational and research institution. And I'm very proud to have been a part of that in whatever little way I was.
With research, osteopathic medicine was able to grow. Over time, DOs were able to go on staff at almost every hospital in the United States and covered by all insurance plans. While the DO profession has achieved parity with MDs, African Americans still struggle with cultural bias. In June of 2020, TCOM announced the Edwards Family Scholarship. Dralvis Edwards is the first African American student to graduate from TCOM in 1980, and following in his footsteps, his daughter Jessica, 34 years later.
There's aspects of our curriculum that teach about health inequalities and the historic disparities in medicine. I really think it's important that they expand the curriculum on that so that future generations know the racism that has been part of medicine, part of society, and how that impacts care. And more importantly, how you can move on to improve care for all patients.
I think it speaks to the idea that I first came across when I came to TCOM, which is community and which is family. And to be able to see the first Black family on TCOM's campus, it's awesome. I think it's great to see that representation.
I think the scholarship embodies what my dad has focused on doing this entire time that he has been out of medical school, and that is increasing the diversity within the DO profession.
I knew that I wanted to be a physician, and I knew that if I ever got the degree that I was going to give it my best shot. I was going to make my community happy. I was going to make my teachers happy, my family.
The week that I got accepted into TCOM, my dad was like emotional, and I kind of get emotional thinking about it as well, but I could see the pride in his face.
No, every time somebody asks me about it, it does this to me.
When he showed me all of the Black doctors who he personally vouched for, the doctors who he made them apply to TCOM because they said they want to be an MD, and he said, be a DO, it's better. And so I felt a lot of pride with just him and learning how much he impacted his community by just being one person. And so I felt like if he could do all that, I could do half of that and probably be something in life.
Now having a scholarship in their names dedicated to the student body, it's huge. It's a big deal on campus. And I think it does draw again to the importance of having diversity on campus, because you have diverse physicians, you have diverse leaders, diverse staff, diverse faculty, and more importantly, diverse students. And we each need to see each other at these different levels.
TCOM has now grown into a leading osteopathic institution. The future continues to look bright.
So when I think about TCOM, it's an osteopathic school where I think the vision is how do I get students to change healthcare?
We've been fortunate here that we have a great interest in teaching in an evidence-based manner, not just teaching evidence-based science, but really getting into learning theory and the way that the material is presented to students.
Approaching the patient, that this is a patient. You know, this isn't just a number. This isn't just a case.
That's what medicine is about. It's about getting down to the bare bones, figuring out who this person is, who you are in the situation. How can you help? How can you see this person for all that they are, for all that they've been through?
We also spend a lot of time practicing patient encounters and learning how to get comfortable talking to our patients, how to be comfortable in that patient-to-physician interaction.
We literally were graded even by like our classmates and the attending on, how you made eye contact with patients to, tell them what their diagnosis was. I remember all of us cried one day when we were practicing giving bad news. And so it's thinking about those things that really have nothing to do with the actual practice of medicine, but more so how medicine is implemented.
That makes me feel a lot more confident going into rotations. I'm more comfortable with my patient interview, with the physical exam, even with hands-on treatment, because I've done it.
I think we will continue to be a premier institution to train physicians and hopefully maintain an emphasis on primary care, because I think that's a strength.
I want to see us leaders in different areas of research, which I believe is what we're obligated to do, in particular to osteopathic approaches.
My most fervent hope for TCOM is that it claims its place as the osteopathic leader. Not always in comparing our students to MD students on board scores, USMLE, and things like that, but really being a beacon of the osteopathic philosophy and being proud to be so.
We have MRIs, we have artificial intelligence that can perhaps maybe outsmart us in making diagnosis, but there is nothing today in the world in healthcare technology that can do what these two hands can do.